And we're live. How's it going, everybody? I'm Eric Buhrendorf. You are watching Finance and Technology Insights with Brian and Eric. I'm your co-host, Eric Buhrendorf. I have with me my esteemed friend and colleague, Brian Williams. How's it going, Brian?
Good. Very good. How's everything with you?
I can't believe we're back. This is episode 33. And I think, did we take the last 2 weeks off? Or was that last one? I don't know why I always forget. But
we took a week off when you were at your conference, and then we
had a video, and then we took it last week off.
Yeah.
So you're looking good. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, very good. We're exploding into Q4 here, closing out Q3, which was interesting market wise, and we chatted a little bit. We've talked about billing processes and all that kind of stuff, so we got through that, at least on our end. Voice is a little scratchy today, but not too bad.
We get some running through the house, or just the
No.
standard issue?
No, I think probably just a little bit of change in season kind of thing. So
yeah, we have that going through the house too. Well, we're all on the mend, I think, but it's so hard every single season. It's hard to say. Is this like a rhinovirus, or is it an allergy thing? But yeah, I just took my daughter, my oldest daughter, to the pediatrician yesterday because she was complaining of a little earache after a week and a half of congestion, but fortunately there's no infection. So yeah, it just goes around, I guess.
Yeah, we keep the extremes pretty high and low as far as doctored air, so to speak. So we keep it pretty cool in the winter and pretty warm in the summer. So
yeah,
do have to adjust to that a little bit.
Man, you're a sight for sore eyes with missing our two recordings, in a close succession. I forget how much I miss doing this.
I know it is fun. Yeah, it's a good way to kick off the week and catch up. But I think it gives us that much more to talk about, right?
Yeah. So what's going on in the personal side of things? What's Luke doing?
Busy weekend. We did the Science Center Saturday morning. Connecticut Science Center. So for people out of the area, that's up in Hartford. It's I want to say that it's new, but it's not that new. But
was admission free, or are they charging now?
No, it's they're back to charging, but we ended up getting like an annual pass for the three of us. So my son's at that age where you can go and do the same thing multiple times, without them, not like a teenager, that again, or we're doing that again. So we had a good time doing that. We did that Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon, I think what we did Saturday afternoon, we did something pretty good Saturday afternoon. And then Sunday here in Southington, we had our Apple Harvest Fest. So we'd actually gone to that Friday night, just kind of walked around, did that. And then they have some road races on Sunday morning. So I did the 5-mile race, and my wife and son came down to watch that. And then Sunday afternoon, we marched in the parade representing our early childhood collaborative here that I'm on the board of. So we were pretty active. We were out and around.
Nice. I would say I was not as active. We went to the Big E, I think, the weekend before. So we got that in. Which is nice. I don't go every year. Being a New England native, it's born and raised. You've seen the Big E. If you've seen the Big E 5 times, you've seen it 100 times. But we did get that in. Otherwise we had a pretty casual weekend. The girls are doing soccer. It's starting to get cold on the sidelines, but we're getting out there and doing that. Other than that, that's it. Let's see what's
anything new or different at the Big E?
No, that's exactly my point.
Fried whatevers.
No, I go for like the 2-foot long like corn dog. This is like the world's largest corn dog. It's ridiculous. I've always loved corn dogs, and me and my oldest daughter enjoy the turkey leg. So that's fun. It started raining like hell on us for a little bit, so we had to take cover, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, our big thing in Southington is the apple fritters. And it's funny, they have a webcam set up now so you can see how long the lines are, like, at all times. Um, and they have hours that are, like, outside of the festival hours. So the festival runs 6 days. It runs Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the following weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But the special apple fritters booth is open, like, 7 days a week. Like,
That's
there's,
funny.
Wednesday morning, there's people out there waiting in line, so
What's that? You guys have a nice orchard up on the hill up there, right? Is that
yeah, we have Rogers Orchards is here. Oh, that's what, my wife and, son did apple picking Saturday
yeah,
afternoon. That's what they did, while I was doing some stuff around here, so,
cool.
um, yeah, busy weekend.
Good.
Fall in New England.
Fall, yeah, no, it's upon us for sure. Let's see
Yep.
what's going on with Northshire. So you mentioned end of Q3, start of Q4. That's a pretty busy time for you, right?
Yeah, it is, just retirement plan business in general. You start to do some reviews for existing plans, and we were talking about it yesterday in text, or just in general seems to be for a lot of industries, a lot of business kind of floating out there, a lot of people looking to, maybe the last couple of years they've neglected some of their service providers, of which your business and my business are both included, and now they're maybe kind of getting back into it. So I feel like that's a bit of an issue. So there seems to be a lot of business floating around. So obviously you're first and foremost servicing what you have and defending that, which I don't think is a big issue for either one of us, but also trying to keep an eye on, growing the existing businesses. The other big thing for me is, for my individual accounts, I custody of Schwab and TD. So they've been, merging for, a couple of years now, I guess. And 2023 is going to be finally when we're starting to get those systems to come together. So, I think ultimately it'll probably be a good thing for me just because I'm running both channels now, but, it's not going to be a huge time saver, a little bit maybe on billing and things like that. But, originally I had initially set up with TD because they were a little more friendly to startups and smaller advisors with, smaller balances. But I had a previous relationship with Schwab, so Schwab ended up, keeping that relationship. So I just kind of ran both platforms and certain systems for certain accounts. It was just better to, some differentiation there. They were better at different things. So it sounds like they're going to try to keep the best tech from both places. TD has a little bit better of a rebalancing system that everybody likes called iRebal that they bought a few years ago. So it sounds like that's going to be ported over to the Schwab platform. So, anyway, so as that starts to come together, that's every quarter. It's a little bit closer to merging those systems. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Nice.
Um, and then market wise, it's obviously been very volatile. The measure for volatility just usually hovers around 20. It's called the VIX, the volatility index, but that's, just this morning came back under 30 after being in an elevated state here for a couple weeks. So that makes clients anxious. That up and down makes them feel like they need to do something, and then you get people that call like, oh, I knew it was going to go down today because we were up so big yesterday. And it's, for people with larger balances, it's real money, and they see it, especially now with everybody, with apps on their phone and whatever. So you get a little bit more anxious stuff around that. But, no, quarter end was good. Everything was smooth there. Set up pretty nicely to go into, fourth quarter, and I guess starting to look ahead to next year. You're always kind of looking one quarter ahead, but,
Crazy, right?
um, yeah, pretty happy with where we're at as far as client wise and growth wise. And, you hope the market performs a little bit better for your clients, but you understand you don't have much control over that. But, 2022 has been the strange year when both stocks and bonds have been down so much. So you're having a lot of those conversations.
Yeah, I mean,
You
and
know,
the down in the market is still up from the 2020 levels, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
there was
Pick your time frame.
yeah,
But
there's quite a bump in 2020. So even if it's down from January, it's still up from 2020, probably, right?
yeah, yeah. I had this conversation. It was a long time ago, but I remember a client calling me and swear to God, not even joking. They said, "Well, I'm down off my all-time high." I said, well, you're always going to be down off your all-time high. You can't be higher than your all-time high. Um, but yeah, I always thought that always sticks in my head because that was kind of a funny conversation.
That is funny. And then
Yeah.
I mean, is there any words of, I mean, you know me, like my approach to investing, like it's investing, you shouldn't be trying to time the market, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, investing is just the continual acquisition of equities, right, over a period of time, with the expectation that in general the market will inflate enough to give you a return at some later date, right?
Yeah, no, that's yeah, 100%. And you want to present that analytical point of view and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, you don't want to be dismissive. They'll
Dismissive,
always say,
right?
take the emotion out of the
I
investments,
feel
and
like I would make like little like business card size cards and just keep or like some canned email like, remember, you're investing, you're not gambling.
yep, yep, that's true.
Remember,
But
markets fluctuate as a natural function, right?
yep, and it's a good thing. Yep, that's why over time you're paid more as an investor because
Right,
you're
you're buying
um,
cheap and then you're buying and then and then it's appreciating, right?
yeah, yep. But you do still have to be a listener, and you do still have to be, empathetic. You've got somebody who's, in their mid-career, maybe they're 40 or so. They haven't really experienced the down market, and they probably didn't have much of a balance, if anything, for '07, '08, and now suddenly they've got this balance, and maybe they had 100,000 in their 401k, and now maybe it's 80. Those are very real numbers to
Right.
people, and you have to, you can't just be a robot and say, well, the market
Well,
goes
no,
up every time. You've got
it's not
25 years. So
it,
it's a combination of both of those things. So you try not to be too flippant or dismissive, because it is still their money. To them, it's the most important thing. To us, we've got, a lot of clients in different positions. And so you have to listen and understand that stuff. So I think that's the balance, is make sure you're giving everybody being the ear to that person, because they don't have anybody else to talk to or talk about this stuff. So it's as much about being a, financial counselor or whatever sort of term you want to use there. So just the balance of presenting them with the numbers, but also understanding their position and that kind of stuff.
yeah. My approach, if I were you, would be like, I'd be like shouting, running down the street, celebrating, like, we're everything's on sale. Now's the time to buy, like the
Yeah,
down
right.
the depression in the market when that occurs, that down is like that's a discount, like
Sure.
if you're an active investor, like now's the time to buy when that on that slide, because when if you believe in the market, then you'll believe that that's coming back.
Yep.
But you're right. I
Yep.
mean, it's
You see
easier
those
said than
memes
done.
about, everybody said, "Boy, if I had just invested in, 2008, how much money would I had now?" Well, this is 2022 is your new 2008. When you're sitting here in 2036, you're gonna say, "Gosh, I wish I had done something differently in 2022. I wish I had just upped my contribution 1% or something like that." So,
I I'm so an example of that. Like the light bulb didn't go off for me until my late 20s,
mm,
unfortunately. And I had some good earning years there, but always, I'm still in my earning years, so that's the
yeah.
time to do your investing, right?
Yeah. And to
That's
your point about the ups and downs, I mean, you think about how you compare it to gas prices. Everybody complains when gas prices are doubled, and you're going to the pump and you're paying more and you're getting less for the same amount of dollars. But that's the stock market's the opposite way. You should feel happy about when it's down, because you're getting more with the same dollars. So
totally.
when the stock market's down and gas are up, geez, don't complain about both of them. you know. but that's
That
but that's what people's mindset is.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah.
All right, what's going on with business development?
Oh, business development. Yeah, I mean, really, it's been a lot of trading and service probably since the last time around. We did do a follow up email. We had an in person event, and we did a follow up email there. The in person, sometimes it takes a couple of those to get your name out there, and you might have to do one in the morning, one at noon, and one in the evening. Sometimes it takes a few. We're okay with the attendance first time around, but what we did is we took that group and we emailed them again and just said, "Hey, sorry we missed you. We know it's a tough time in the evening, just something like that," and gave them the opportunity to reach out and book some time. So that was probably um, business development wise for business owners. That was probably the biggest thing. on the individual side, I went through and I was just kind of chasing some of the referrals. Like sometimes somebody would say, "Oh, my cousin's going to reach out to you or whatever," and I don't push that. But a couple of those I'd kind of tagged in my CRM. So I just said, "Oh, I never heard from your cousin. Is that something you wanted me to reach out to or something?" And I do that for a couple of reasons. Obviously, you just want to, kind of follow up, but I'm always nervous that there's some sort of mode of communication that somehow I missed, or they they left a voicemail that I accidentally cleared, or it was a text from an
I
unknown
found
number that got blocked by spam. So you almost kind of have to do that these days
I
because
found a
somebody
lead
might
in
have.
my spam folder this morning.
Yeah. Yeah, they might be like, "Oh, I sent you a LinkedIn message, 3 weeks ago." And it's like, well, okay, but a lot of those either get blocked or filtered, or if it's an off time of day, you swipe the wrong way and it's gone.
Yeah,
Um, so trying to do a better job of that just for my own sanity to make sure I didn't miss something. Um, so that's
that's
that.
cool. That's cool.
All right, let's rock your EVERNET.
Yeah, so a lot going on oh, one thing I didn't mention on the personal side is I don't know, did I mention I don't have a graduate degree. Did you get your grad degree?
I did not. Nope.
You did, yeah. So I it's always been kind of like this thing in the back of my mind, like, it'd really be nice to just have the MBA. And 3 years ago, I applied to the executive MBA program at UConn, University of Connecticut, and was admitted and accepted. And then COVID started, and then I deferred it, and then kind of the application timed out. So this late summer, I just kind of, we were looking at the girls starting school again and things getting back to normal. And so I just reached out, got the application in, and then I talked to the program director, and they said, a lot of people did what you did. And so as a result, the participants were kind of not high enough to make a robust program this fall. So they actually idled the program for this fall. That's happening, right now, and they're kind of stacking everybody up for next fall. So I have my application in for that next fall, and unless something's changed on their end, I anticipate starting an MBA program this summer into the fall. So that's kind of
That's pretty
exciting.
exciting. And so
Yeah.
how long of a program is that, start to finish?
Well, it's called the Executive MBA program. So it's still an 18-month program, but they design it so it's kind of like, remember the National Guard commercials? What, 2 weekends? What did they
Yeah.
say? 2 weekends a month.
2 weeks a year or
Two
something like
weeks a
that?
year, something
Yeah.
something like that. It feels just like that.
Mhm.
So it's 2 weekends, literally 2 weekends a month, I think, and 2 weeks a year, give or take another thing. But you're getting the same instruction time, but you're just stacking up like 10-hour days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday,
Mhm.
twice a month. And then there's an international trip and some other work, but that's basically it. So they design it for the working executive.
That's really nice. Do you know where your trip is gonna be?
No, I don't think they calendared that yet, but they've done South Africa, Europe. I think it's I think Australia they've done recently, something like
Mhm.
that. So yeah, and they do that in June. I think they do that June or July. So
Okay.
that will be in my future again, unless something changes with their program or something on my end. But I'm looking forward to that. It'll be nice. So that's on the personal side. On the business side, um, I mean, you and I've been texting, through the time. Like I don't want to say I've been in the weeds, but I've been just, the be careful what you wish for, kind of comes to mind. I've been so busy for the first, 15 years of running the business that I built like a world-class service delivery apparatus in the business. So like if you become a client, you are not getting a better experience for your IT and consulting from any other vendor. Like it's just everything I put into this business and succeeded. And my team is executing on that, like with very little intervention from me.
Mhm.
Then I built the business side and the accounts management side. I built the whole business, right? The last thing I ever built was the sales and marketing apparatus, something to control the growth of the business. And that's what we've been talking about for the last 9 months, and that's what I've been kind of gearing up for. And the fruits of that labor just are starting to yield right now, and it's like a flywheel that keeps spinning faster and faster. We would go with no marketing function in a business. The only growth is kind of any kind of organic or referral that would come in, and that could result in one or two clients, or zero new clients in a month, or even a quarter. And it feels like right now we're signing on it feels like I'm getting several qualified prospects a day now.
Wow.
And I feel like I'm signing several new clients a week,
Good.
which is like transformational. It's really kind of transformational. So right now I'm spending my days producing content that's necessary for this marketing and sales apparatus, and servicing our clients, because we're now what we're doing internally is we're now making available to our clients, because so many of our clients need the same marketing function. So we're servicing that, and I'm doing kind of HR because I'm building our team. And
Right.
I don't know if you saw some of my posts, but we're looking for copywriters and content writers and some web admins and things like that. So we're scaling that up, and the team is ballooned. We have 2 more people on our team now. So that's really exciting. And then the rest of my time is spent making sure that I'm building a function and the systems and the workflows that you never want a new lead to be a bug on a windshield. You really want to create the catcher's mitt or the net that catches that lead, services that leads, gives them that experience kind of on the front side of the relationship that they're going to have on the back side of the relationship. So that's what I've been doing.
No, that's pretty excited. Have you been able to find, how is it to find the talent that you need right now?
It's possible.
Mhm.
Labor rates I mean, the inflation is real. It is here. It is present. It's crazy. Again, probably my politics at this point. Maybe you don't, because some people think, are you Republican? Are you liberal? Are you centrist? Are you libertarian? It's like, no, I'm just kind of a sensible centrist is kind of where I'm at. You know what I mean? Like, do what you want, but don't necessarily ask us to pay for it. That kind of thing. Um, and every time I see a living wage campaign, or a government intervention into kind of a free market function like wages, you know I, if the government mandates a wage, for example, and the guys and gals flipping burgers at McDonald's, if you make that company pay them more. I mean, the labor is the significant cost that goes into all products. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just what it is. So if you force an artificial inflation of wages anywhere, you are going to increase the cost of your goods. So if you have government intervention and you just do a sweeping labor increase, you're going to have a sweeping inflation of your economy. It's just how it's going to be. And the ridiculousness is you artificially inflate wages. You are going to influence the inflation of goods and services, and then everybody's back to where we started
Right.
again.
Yeah.
It is a naturally occurring phenomenon, unless
Mhm.
you can somehow nullify the effects of free market concepts and function. That is going to happen every single time, and that's what happened. It's this combination of artificially lifting wages. It's a combination of the Fed, with their finger on the printing press, printing more dollar bills, devaluing every dollar bill we have in our pocket. So, anyways, I don't mean to go on a tangent, but it's just people think the economics is difficult, and it's really not. Like, if you just run a lemonade stand for a week and go, and then have the government be like, well, you really got to pay your daughter a living wage to run that stand, and then you're like, okay, well, where do I get the money to pay that living wage? I have to derive that money from the price of my good that we're selling. So
Right.
here's your $14.99 lemonade in a half one of those clear solo cups, and then the passersby be like, why is it a $14 lemonade? You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Um, so yes, a lot of words to say. The labor pool still is present because I know there was a lot in the news cycle that there's the great resignation and things like that. But um, the labor pool is present, but it's expensive. Like it is, I would say it's like up 50 to 100% in some cases. It's crazy. Um, so that's what we're experiencing.
Yeah, nope, 100% on that, and on the minimum wage, it's funny when they always say they're gonna raise the minimum wage. Well, they're not just raising the minimum wage, obviously, they're raising wages across the board because it's not just taking everybody from 14 to
Ex-
16. The people who are at 16 are like, "Well, wait a minute, I've got experience, I need 18 or 19," and then the people at 19 are like, "Well, wait a minute, I need 25." So, definitely.
Well, and then everybody who's up market from that
Mhm,
says like, well, food is more expensive, gas is more expensive, everything's more expensive. Even if you're like an executive, or if you're a middle manager, or if you're a entry level business professional, like you're squeezing your employer, saying like
mhm.
my quality of life that I expect based on my position in this economy, I demand more money, and that happens kind of universally. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
right.
and you know, and the people who rail for living wages, the moral hazard there is like, by whose standard? By
Mhm.
who, when you say like, this is how I feel like you should live, so therefore I'm just like, why not just make everybody millionaires? Like if if you can control everybody's living standard, and then why stop at one or two bedroom apartments for somebody who works at McDonald's and has three kids? Like why is that your standard? Like it's just this crazy moral hazard. And it's just really not that complicated. I mean, I debate this with my own father. Like he just doesn't. He refuses to accept that I understand how the economy works, because like he in his sphere is like, he sees the news. Oh, it's so complicated. So that's why things are so complicated. It's like, no, it's really not complicated. It's just costs and revenues. I mean, it's just that simple. But anyways, that was a tangent. And I'm really not mad at it at this point. Like I kind of stepped
No.
away from the kind of fervor of the political chatter. If it's just like, fine, like I'll just increase I'm a cog in this economy too. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I can't pay my people, or they're squeezing me for raises, like I'm just gonna raise our rates, and I see what my space is doing. And there's always that like point in time when it happens, that like you kind of like try to capitalize on maybe your competition is going early in that adjustment, and maybe you kind of you take the squeeze a little bit longer before you finally get there, but ultimately everybody gets there. You know what I mean?
Right, right, and that, or the other option is, of course, if you've got to give everybody raises, then maybe it's time to eliminate one of those workers. Not, I don't mean necessarily your business, but in general, that's the
Well,
way people get.
there's point in time efficiencies
Yeah.
and cost cutting for sure. I
Mhm,
mean, so in the news cycle, you see the tech industry is in a big kind of cost cutting
mhm.
squeeze right now.
Yeah, yeah, and that's an industry that turns over so much. I mean, if you're coming out of school with a specific skill set, 6 years later, there's somebody who's coming who's got the same skill set, who's younger, faster, cheaper, whatever. So um, maybe in certain fields, the experience there isn't that worth that much of a premium over the new entrants to the market.
What's interesting, if we can continue this vein, what's really interesting is we're the developed economy, so to speak, right? The first
Mhm.
world, if you whatever you want to, what term you ever want to use it. But really, what that means is we're the technology leader for today, and throughout history, the biggest influencer in the global stage, if you will, has always been the technology leader, right? The dominant part. culture has always been the technology leader. The Romans, the Greeks, America, Europe, and
Best boats, best weapons. Yep.
exactly right. So we're still leading today. China and India are fast approaching. So that's the future is going to change. But in context of the economy, we're like on the precipice, and we've been talking about this for the last 9 months, right? Of automation, and my wife still loves to take the kids to McDonald's. I hate McDonald's, although every time I go, I get a fish fillet, or McFish or whatever they call it. I just love that soft bun when it gets like soft from the steam. You know what I mean? But now we go to the McDonald's. Huh?
Milkshakes are the Sundays when the machine's working.
When the machines, oh yeah, we could talk about that. So they just rebuilt the McDonald's close to us. It's all this new build, and I just saw in the paper that they're doing the same thing with Wendy's. So it's all going to be new. When you go into McDonald's now, it's like there's kiosks right in the door. You do order at a screen now. So and they have one register. They have one register, maybe two. But remember in the day, it would just be a bank of registers. Sure. You know what I mean? And so it's interesting because necessity is kind of like the muse for innovation, and you had these, we're transitioning to kiosks because they have fewer people they're paying minimum wage, whatever that is currently, to take our order at McDonald's. Interestingly enough, though, I feel like it's a better experience. I feel like the demeanor and the atmosphere is almost like more positive. And I've read studies and articles about the happiness of employees who do kind of menial, brainless tasks like taking an order, where rather than fulfilling the order, which is the act of interfacing with a customer and doing a thought experience, a thought effort, even if it's working the machines and taking your, assembling your order or whatever. So it's really fascinating.
Yeah, it comes down to the ability to be a creator, right? At our core, we want to be creative. But as much as your task is streamlined to pressing buttons and change, or probably not even change now, right? It kind of spits it out the front if you're getting change. But
are you talking about tangible currency change?
Yeah.
Oh.
It spits it out the front, those machines.
Who uses change anymore? It's just credits, and it's debits and credits now, right?
But the idea of the, people, if they're not have the ability to be creative at their job or improve it in any way, the experience is not as good. But as far as on the fast food vein, did you hear they're going to start? They're going to use AI in a lot of the drive-throughs now, so that order taker is not there anymore. So, if you pull up at a lot of these restaurants now they have that audio clip that they play ahead of time. I don't know if you've noticed that.
I haven't noticed that.
Yeah, but so they'll whatever they're selling or whatever their special is, that's now automated. So you'll pull up and they'll say, oh, today's special or $2 for $1 double cheeseburgers or whatever it is. And then the person will come on. But now they're working on having it AI, which would make sense. I mean, they've had the automated voice response systems on the telephone for a while. So now they're going to integrate that into the drive-through so that you're talking to a robot, and then it's going to go in there. And so that's that next step. They've automated the kiosks, the dining experience, as we make the air quotes.
And it's the increased labor costs for one that is driving that innovation. I remember about 15 years ago, that McDonald's was experimenting with using remote call centers for their ordering at the drive-through. I don't know if you remember that or not.
No.
And I don't know. I think ultimately they walked it back because it just wasn't a great experience, because the person kind of at the window, that your first human interaction didn't have the context of what just happened at the ordering menu. Right. So if there was a ad drop or change or something, it didn't really lend itself really well. But it's fascinating, and again, it's full circle. If we didn't have artificial manipulation of the economy, like minimum wage changes, you wouldn't necessarily see the speed in which the rate of adoption, like these new technologies, are coming.
I don't know to the extent that it pushes it. I'm sure it does, and I'm sure it's a big factor. But they'd probably be looking to eliminate costs and eliminate employees, either in a flat wage environment.
I totally agree with you on that on that principle. But I mean, I watch the transportation sector really closely, as you know, and we talk about it a lot here.
Yeah.
Like, I watch a lot of startup CEOs and founders talk emotionally about the cost of the safety of our roads, the cost of
Mhm.
moving goods. Like, people look and say, like, why are roads so unsafe? Like, why, how do we move goods and people cleaner and safer? You know what I mean? That would be coming, and we're at a convergence also of technology. So it's kind of like chips are smaller, chips are faster, chips are cheaper, with the chip shortage, exception. So, like, it's hard to say necessarily, but it does feel like there's kind of an imperative to move people cheaper, easier, automated, and maybe we're entering that era. I don't know. It's
Yeah, I
interesting.
think so. I think we've probably been in it for a while, and it's just it's hard when you're living in it to get a feel for starting and endpoints or whatever, but
Right.
I'm sure in some textbook that our grandkids will be reading, there'll be a line of, well, in this year or after the pandemic, they went to this, or they make up kind of these artificial points in time to talk about this stuff. But yeah, I mean, with any job, any industry, you get to the point where the technology overtakes the human and is just better at the job, and that's a lot of the obviously road accidents and all that stuff is just it's humans because we're bad at our jobs or we're under the influence or whatever.
Right.
But we'll eventually get to the point, if we're not there yet, where robots can do a better job than we can,
So true. So true.
better,
So
cheaper.
that covers us. That covers me. That covers. Let me do a mid show reminder. Everybody's watching Finance and Technology Insights. We have a YouTube channel. Let me just put that up on screen real quick, Bri. We have Finance and Technology Insights, so make sure that you check us out there. Brian is northshireconsulting.com. You only get one financial future. The time is now to make it a great one. I love that. Brian did some work on his website. I am evernetcode.com. We have some October pumpkin colors right now. We're in the midst of redoing our website and kind of reworking that. And we do have, hopefully I don't, we have a Finance and Technology Insights on Facebook with a page and some news that we post periodically. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that.
Yeah,
So you
your
want to talk?
website looks good. It gets me in the mood for apple cider donuts or pumpkins or whatever.
Oh, well, my new color, the colors on my
Yeah,
website.
yeah.
Yeah. It's one thing I learned about a website is you almost gotta be playing with it every day or every week.
Mhm.
You gotta just keep picking at it, keep playing with it. Don't be afraid to change it. Don't be afraid to overhaul it. Um, so yeah, I use the expression where we run with scissors around here.
Mhm.
You want to talk about the news? Anything going on in the news?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff. Was there any big stories that you wanted to talk about?
Before we do that, let's do this. I love that. I love that you did those for us. That's awesome. Yeah, so we just so the viewers know, we do post news articles to our Facebook page and group, so that we can use that as a kind of a talking point. I haven't posted much in a bit, but hot on the news cycle, at least on the tech and transportation. Um, this week, this company called Whisk reveals the first autonomous four-seat electric air taxi. And, there is no shortage of companies working on this. They call it urban air mobility.
Mhm.
Um, Hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars are being sunk into developing this. I think this company, Whisk, may be subsidized or supported by Boeing. And I'm not going to play it here, but the coverage that they just released this looks to me like the first actual, do you know what vaporware is?
Yeah. Yep.
The product announced that never comes.
Mhm.
Anyways, this release from Whisk feels like the first actual tangible next step towards the eventual outcome of urban air mobility, electric urban air mobility and autonomous. So
Mm,
they go into detail about how they are actually working with the FAA. The FAA. So I'm a pilot, which I don't know if you knew that or not, but I'm a pilot. I'm a pilot. I'm a private pilot, and there's two ways that you can be a pilot. Besides the licensure, you have your sport pilot, your private pilot, your commercial pilot, and your airline transport pilot. Um, the, when you're a pilot, then there's two ways you can fly in the airspace. There's VFR, which is called visual flight rules, which means you just can't fly into the clouds, and you are not being controlled by air traffic control. The
mm,
second one, which is all commercial travel, is instrument flight rules, where you are on a pre-programmed flight before you even take off. It's in the air system, and everybody can see what you've logged, where you're going to go, and there's air routes that you can actually you see in a line where you're going. There's a third one apparently that they just released, or they just teased, digital flight rules. So this is, I guess, a third uh, flight rule structure for autonomous vehicles like this, and that's huge. And that I had not previously heard of that. I mean, I assumed or presumed that they would have something, or where they would work within the VFR or the IFR flight rules,
mhm,
but yeah, it sounds like they're coming out with DFR, digital flight rules, for this application, which to me is really exciting because it really signals that the FAA is not our dad's FAA anymore.
mhm,
This is a technology forward organization that is working with these companies in a good faith effort to get these products out. And what's interesting is they even gave it a price that they anticipate, a trip going to cost $3 per mile.
mhm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you think that it's going to when I look at this and I say, "All right, is there gonna be a step that we skip, and is the consumer comfortable with that? Are we going to be at the point where we go on our phone, we request a personal air taxi, it shows up at our house with a driver, and then takes us somewhere, and then 5 or 10 years later, it shows up without a driver?" Or do you think we'll just skip the pilot altogether?
I think we're gonna skip the pilot on day one, but
Okay.
it's interesting you ask that, because a number of other leaders that have been, dripping the faucet with details of their development,
Mhm,
a number of them have been developing their aircraft with a pilot's chair, because they
mhm.
believed at the time, and don't forget, all this stuff has been in development for the past 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
When that decision was made 5 to 10 years ago, they just couldn't imagine that people would be comfortable with an autonomous vehicle.
Mhm,
This company says no, we're autonomous first. For two reasons. For one big reason is cost. We just talked about
sure.
labor costs, right? What do you think it costs to put a trained pilot in one of four seats? Because you have to keep these things light, so weight is a huge
Mhm,
restriction, and from the economic standpoint, you need to sell every seat you can, right? So if you can't sell, not only can you not sell one of the seats because you got to fill a pilot in it, you got to pay that pilot. And at four seats, three usable seats per vehicle, how many pilots are you going to need? We're already in a pilot shortage.
right.
So the economics, and this was never intended to be a rich person's transport. This is real. They really are targeting mass use here. Look, the color is yellow. They call it an air taxi. Like, maybe the lower market is not going to be using this to this may not be the individual who works at McDonald's ride to work, but somebody middle economy and up, $3 a mile. That's where they're targeting this. You can't
Mhm,
do that if you're going to pay for a pilot. So it has to be autonomous first.
right.
Has to be.
Yeah, and for me,
Um,
when I look at these, I think of sort of that intermediate trip that's a pain on any level, you know. So we're in Hartford, like the trip to Boston or the trip to New York. It's like the drive, the train, to fly, like none of those make perfect sense, except this does, you know. The flight time from Hartford to Boston or New York would be greatly enhanced by this.
so there was this guy here. this just made the news. This is what you're talking about, and they call this the short range, mid
Mhm,
range. So this will be this is a first electric flight that ran last week. Oh, come on. I hope I don't crash the stream again. But this right here is an electric aircraft that flew for the first time um, September 27th, last week. So this one will be piloted to start, and this will get you from Boston to New York, New York to DC, Boston to DC, maybe.
mhm.
That'll be your mid-range hopper with 10 to 20 seats on it, electric.
Yeah, see,
But
the problem with that, though, is you're still going through an airport, and it's not as personal as the other ones, that
right,
doesn't probably save you a ton of time. I'm looking forward to the day when you go on your phone and you order this guy, and it shows up at your house, and it
This
takes you
this
to New
will
York.
I don't think this will ever show up at your house. What you're gonna do is you maybe through the Uber app or similar, you'll book a car, an autonomous car from your house
Mhm,
to the local UA urban air mobility UAM depot.
mhm.
And malls are going out of business. I don't know about you in Southington, but I know that there's a number of, I think, plazas that are vacant and they need to be repurposed. And our own mall here is you could tell it's going to be it's going to be an Amazon fulfillment center someday soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but they're going to repurpose those open spaces as these regional ports. And then again, when autonomous taxis show up, you're gonna be surprised how little parking lots are going to be needed when
Right.
most people aren't parking their own cars, right? So you're gonna have a lot of open space. So you're gonna take your Uber app and say, I want to go to New York City, and Uber is going to say, okay, we're going to send a car for you. It's going to be there. The car is going to take you 2 miles
Mhm.
to the urban air mobility taxi depot. You're going to walk onto the pad. Probably not go maybe a metal detector. No, not much more than that, right? And you're gonna get onto one of these, and then you're gonna take a hop to your next urban center. And that'll probably cost you maybe a couple $100 or $100 or $150, which, by the way, $100 today is not what $100 was 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Um, so yeah, and then if you wanted to go a longer hop, then you would go through the more logistical uh, pomp and circumstance to get on something bigger like that.
Mhm.
So that's how I see it coming. Almost it's not even fantastical to me anymore. It's almost
Right.
like it's like when broadband first started coming. When I don't know if you remember when you were transitioning from AOL or dial-up,
Yeah.
and you heard of broadband, and you got a taste of it at a friend's house or something. You're like, oh my god, look how
I
fast you
know.
can download an MP3 from Napster, or
Mhm.
uh, how fast these pages load. And then you're like, it's not in my neighborhood yet.
Right.
You
Right.
know, we are just before seeing your friend have it in his community. I mean, Cruise and Waymo are already operating autonomous taxis in Phoenix and San Francisco,
Mhm.
and it's coming.
And it's funny from a tech standpoint, I would think it would be easier to develop a self-driving plane than a car. You're not navigating roads, you're not necessarily navigating traffic. It's a lot less crowded. I would think that would be much easier.
I mean, Google and Waymo announced in 2015-16 that they're like, oh, we've had highway autonomy done for
Yeah.
years because it's a much easier problem to solve. Everybody's generally moving in the same direction at the
Mhm.
same speed with acceptable behavior and patterns. No cross traffic, no pedestrians, no what they call vulnerable road users.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's city streets and autonomous driving. So to that vein, like, yeah, flying, and I haven't done it and I'm not doing it. I know that there are all the challenges that come with it. So I don't want to reduce all the fine engineers that are working on it, but just in principle, yeah, like, I mean, they're already putting auto land technology in general aviation aircraft. You can
Right.
buy a single engine personal airplane that has auto land in it. So it's
Mhm.
it's it's a very expectable environment for the most part.
Right. Right. Uh, Funny story, semi-related to the, autonomous vehicles. So I was out yesterday and going through the Apple Harvest Fest. So so my Subaru, it's, 2016, but it has some of those, kinda halfway features that we've talked about. So when you're at, let's say, a stoplight and the car in front of you moves and you don't, it kinda beeps like, "Hey, wake up, pal. It's time to go. You got a green light."
Yeah, there you
Um
go.
but it also has also has automatic braking in certain situations where, so if somebody runs out in front of you, it stops if you don't, or if you're coming up on a red light and you don't know it red. So um, sometimes those systems conflict with each other, which is funny. So I'm going through Southington yesterday, and we're at a red light, and I see people coming. They're crossing the road. They're at this, festival, and they're not at a crosswalk or whatever. My car's beeping at me, telling me to drive, and I can see the people. They're about to walk right in front of me, and I'm not moving, but I slowly take my foot off the brake because I've got far enough, and they're, almost past the car. And then the Subaru puts on my automatic braking because it senses the people are there. So it's, again, it's old technology at this point, and it's
Early days,
changing
right? Early
rapidly, but
implementation.
it's funny to have those conflicting systems. It's like, you guys were wrong on both accords, and thank God I'm sitting here, because you guys would
Yeah.
have run over those people and then driven away. But yeah, I would think, certainly flying is, obviously takeoff and landing is the more challenging part. I think you'd probably say the most important part of the flight, and but going through the skies, and maybe there's probably an intermediate system where there's maybe somebody at a air traffic control center that maybe is monitoring 10 of these different autonomous planes, and they're kind of, making sure they're all on track. So it's not completely automated. You don't have a pilot in every seat, but they're tracking these things to make sure they don't run
Yeah.
into each other, and all that. And obviously the smaller the plane, the less their need for security, I would think there is. Nobody's gonna,
Right.
I mean, if it's just your family in there, I mean, I guess you could, I mean, at some point, one of them's gonna be hijacked and somebody's gonna do something,
Yeah, I
not
mean,
right with
maybe when autonomy, when air commercial, your typical commercial air travel is fully automated, which it will be. Maybe we go back to no TSA and things when the vehicle can't be hijacked. I mean, right now you go on to, there is no real material, there's no real security when you get on a bus or a train.
Right, which has never made any sense to me. That totally, it doesn't freak me out, but it's like you're hopping on a train and you're going underneath, like, all these buildings in New York and whatever, and you can just hop on with whatever
Yeah,
you
I
want.
mean, if you wanna kill a few thousand people, just, you can do it in a subway. They have done it, unfortunately. I mean, I
Yeah,
think, it's like, so the safety, it's more of seems more psychological, although they did weaponize the airplanes, right? So
sure.
if, once the plane cannot be weaponized per se, and you only risk harming those that are in the plane, and with some, maybe debris field that'll fall from the plane, like, you know, uh,
Yeah. The
maybe
security risk is not gonna be on the plane. It's gonna be some hacker somewhere that hacks the system and does
hackers.
something with it.
I love that as that's always a catch-all, like, "Oh, the hackers will get it. The hackers."
Well, I mean, that's the way, at some point, somebody will hijack a plane from the middle of Russia and do something with it.
Yeah, I mean, just, from a basic principle, if an autonomous vehicle that's airborne can take directional inputs from a remote command center, it is subject to
Mhm.
being hacked. I mean, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, it's funny. I know we're getting up to, again, the time here, but we talked a few weeks ago about the BMW that added the subscription services for the heated seats, and now if you go online, there's like people that are like, oh, I know how to override that, or because the it's built into the car. It's just you're paying for the electronics and it to be turned on, but it's in the car. So now you're getting all these like system override people, or somebody knows somebody that knows somebody. I saw a similar thing with the Deere tractors, because they're trying to do a
Yep,
subscription
John
based
Deere. Yeah.
models.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, I know a guy who knows a guy,
And
and
McDonald's ice creams machine, same thing.
yeah, I know. Yeah, if only they could fix those remotely. I don't think they can, but
Last comment to that, but, oh my god, just the thought just jumped right out of my head.
I don't know. Well, you can think about it. I'll give us our outros here. So I'm
Yeah.
Ryan Williams from Northshire Consulting. We are a Connecticut-based independent investment advisory firm working with organizations of all sizes here, especially now that we're getting closer to that mandate of 5 or more employees. Organizations are required to have a retirement plan for their employees. So we're working a lot on that. Online, as we said earlier, northshireconsulting.com. You can book that introductory meeting right there. On social media, we use the handles 401k and beyond. That way we can talk about whatever we want, whenever we want. And so that's where to find our YouTube channel, Instagram, all over the place. Did you think of what escaped your mind, Eric?
No, it was good though. It was good.
The teaser for next week.
Yeah, maybe next week. Eric Buhrendorf, CEO, senior consultant, EVERNET Consulting. We're a national IT consulting and support services company. We help with your business management software, practice management software, billing software, integration, installation, configuration, support, your classic IT infrastructure, servers, workstations, cybersecurity, compliance, everything you need. We can help you with that from a consulting capacity to a long-term support and planning management role. If you need to have a conversation with me, go to evernetco.com. You'll see it in the banner below. Schedule a discovery call directly with me, and I'll be happy to give you an hour of my time, talk about your problems. Yep, find us. You're watching Finance and Technology Insights. I am your co-host, Eric. And I have with me this guy here. Which side are you? This side? This is Brian Williams. We record every Tuesday, assuming everything's good to go. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a comment. That all that sort of thing.
All right. See you next week.
See you, Brian.